Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Saskia and this is Sincerely Saskia, a YouTube channel where I discuss grad school, specifically PA school, and how to get in, my personal journey, and of course, little bits and pieces of my life like travel, skincare, beauty, and more. Now, today's video, as you guys can tell by the title, is about my tips or advice on how to best prepare yourself for getting into PA school. I got into two schools and I'm first gen and I had not much help getting into PA school. Like I didn't have anyone that I could really talk to as much about the process. I had no one to really walk my hand through it. So this is gonna be me trying to give back and help you guys who might need some assistance because this is a very hard and expensive process. I will be looking at my iPad from time to time because it's gonna help me keep track of what I'm saying because I do tend to ramble on a lot. So without further ado, let's get started. So let's get the first two things out the way that most people know about when it comes to applying to PA school. And those are gonna be your GPA and your patient care hours. Those are gonna be arguably the most important things on your application, but I think most people already know that, so I don't wanna spend too much time on it, but I do wanna stress how important it is to have a good GPA and a good amount of patient care hours. Now, what GPA should you have? It really depends on the school, but I personally feel like above a 3.5 is pretty good. Now, I had below a 3.5 when I applied, so don't think, oh my gosh, I have a 3.4 or 3.3, I'm not gonna get in. That's definitely not the case. But I do feel like having above a 3.5 definitely increases your chances on getting into PA school. Now, that also isn't to say that, oh, I have a 3.9, I'm a shoo-in. You may not be. I've heard of people having like 3.9s getting rejected. So your GPA isn't everything, but it's a good bulk of what they look at. I even had one school tell me that 80% of what they look at when it comes to your application is your GPA. And patient care hours, extracurriculars, community service, everything else is 20%. So keep that in mind when you are applying, that your GPA is very important. I don't want to spend too much time on that because I feel like that's kind of redundant and everybody knows that already, but I just want to make sure like I address that as well. Now, the next thing I want to address is patient care hours. That number will vary depending on the school that you are applying to. I've seen some schools require none, and I've seen schools require anywhere up to 2,000. Most schools I feel like require 2,000, but there are some that require 500, 1,000. To me, best rule of thumb is to do more than what's required. I recommend getting 2,000 minimum, even if the school that you want to go to is 500, because this is a numbers game, right? You're competing against several other people, and those people are going to have more hours than you are. You know, a lot of people who apply to PA school are like full-grown adults. They are like 30, 40 years old, and they've had healthcare experience for years. I met a PA once who was an EMT for like 10 years before he switched to being a PA. So you with your 500-600 hours is not gonna look that great compared to someone who has 10,000 hours. I'm here to keep it real with y'all. Like, I'm not trying to like sugarcoat things or play games. I wanna make sure you guys are best prepared when it comes to getting to PA school. And I'm gonna just be honest, like you have to think about it like that. Make yourself stand out. You don't wanna do the bare minimum thinking you're gonna get into PA school by doing the bare minimum. So you really wanna do 2,000 hours. I had above 2,000 when I applied. I think I had about 2,200, maybe 2,300. I don't remember the exact amount, honestly, but I definitely had over 2,000 hours. So just keep that in mind when you are applying to PA school. You really wanna have a good amount of hours in. Another thing that's important, and that depends on the school too, is what you're doing to gain those hours, right? So for example, I know some schools have a list on their website of what jobs they deem to be patient care. And you want to make sure that your school that you want to go to accepts your current job as patient care. Like some general ones that most schools accept are like medical assistant, which is what I did, nursing, certified nursing assistant, so CNA, EMT, all of that. Those are typically acceptable, but some schools will give you like minus points or take away points if you're something like a personal trainer or physical therapy, assistant, or RBT, registered behavioral therapist. It depends on the school. Some schools, like I said, have a document on their website that tells you, okay, we give full points to MAs, but if you're a physical therapy assistant, we'll give you half credit. So it really just depends on the school. I'm gonna try to leave an example up on the screen somewhere for a school that has their requirements listed. Not every school does, but it doesn't hurt to also email the school and ask, hey, will this count, will this not count, what will be accepted and what not, just so you're not doing a job that you hope to help you get into PA school and whole time it doesn't mean anything. And paid is usually better. I was paid, I was an MA. They usually look better upon that rather than, you volunteering. Just keep that in mind as well. Speaking of looking at the school's website and contacting the school, that is my first point. So point number one is you really want to go to the school's website and look through it religiously. And not just once or twice, but several times throughout the application process. And of course, before you apply, because that's gonna tell you pretty much everything you need to know about the school. If you guys don't know, ARC-PA requires the schools to keep you informed of everything regarding the school. If you don't know what ARC-PA is the accrediting body for PA schools. So they basically go around checking the schools, making sure the schools are doing what they're supposed to be doing to be supporting you students, okay? So ARC-PA requires that they have certain information listed on their website to make it easier for us prospective students to be able to know what we're getting ourselves into in regards to the school. So definitely look on their website. It'll tell you exactly what you need to know when it comes down to what they require, what they don't require, what they will accept, what they won't accept, how the school is structured, the schedule, everything regarding that, like faculty, staff, amenities, like if they have a cadaver lab or if they're affiliated with certain hospitals. All of that is supposed to be on the school's website. So definitely get to know the school's website as well as their mission statement. I feel like the reason why I got into both the schools I got into was because my experience, my personal statement, and just me as a person really aligned well with those schools' mission statements. So get to know the mission statements, see where you fit in, because that will kind of help you understand whether or not that school is a good fit for you and whether or not you can get into the school. So keep that in mind. So yeah, definitely read the website and do research. Of course, you're watching this video, so that is a good starting point for research, but don't be afraid to email the school with any questions that you may have, or again, read the website. The next thing that I want to talk about, which is thing number 2, is talking to the program directly in different ways. So there's either talking to the directors, the program coordinators, or of course, information sessions. I think those are the best ways to really get to really start a conversation with the schools so you know what you're getting yourself into, right? So personally for me, at my undergraduate institution, Florida State, I spoke to I believe he was the admissions director or admissions something. I forgot what his title was per se, but he worked for the PA program. And because I was a student there, I was able to email him and I was able to talk to him about my application. We had a Zoom session and he was able to give me some tips on how to improve. He's the reason why I retook Orgo 1. The first time I took Orgo 1 lecture, I got a C. And when I told him that, he was like, yeah, you should retake that again, because if you were to apply to our PA school, you would not get accepted with that C. So that's why I went ahead and retook it during my gap year and I got a B, which of course is an improvement from a C. So I recommend talking to PA schools to see what you can do. I don't know if your school has a PA school. If you go to an undergraduate institution that has a PA school attached, try reaching out to them, talking to them about it, whether or not you want to go to that school. I didn't want to go to Florida State's PA school. I didn't want to stay in Tallahassee anymore. But I felt like whatever he would say, another program would probably say the same thing. So it was just good to get feedback from someone in a position that would be accepting me regardless if that makes sense. So that's one thing that I did, and that was very helpful because, like I said, he told me how to improve my application. Please don't go email that man if you find him and asking him to review you. I don't think he's gonna respond to your email, especially if you don't attend Florida State. But that's what happened to me. I do know that the next thing that I'm gonna mention under this topic is I do know there are certain schools that do have private like advising sessions. Okay, that would also be helpful. This wasn't really like formal. It was kind of like an informal. I sent him an email and he responded to me, gave me his Zoom link, and we hopped on Zoom twice and we spoke about my improvements. I do know some schools do have advising sessions where you can link up with them for like 30 minutes or an hour. You go over your resume, your experience, basically your application, like your strengths, your strong suits, your weaknesses. You go over like your application and like your GPA, your hours, etc., and they can give you feedback. It's not a lot of schools, but I do know there are some. I actually went to another one with a school in Texas, and after meeting with the program coordinator, I believe she was telling me how because I got a seat in Orgo 1 lab, they would not accept me to the program. So because I heard that, I was like, okay, cool, I'm not applying to this school because I'm not retaking Orgo 1 lab. And you're telling me that my C will keep me from getting in, there's no point in me applying. Another thing that some schools do are info sessions. And those are really helpful because they usually are on Zoom. Sometimes they are in person, but they usually are on Zoom. You hop on the Zoom and it's usually a bunch of other pre-PA students and faculty from the PA program. And they will basically do a presentation talking about their program, explaining what their program does and how it's different from others. And, basically give you a presentation about the program and the requirements, the history, the background, etc. And they have a Q&A usually at the end where you can ask questions about their program or yourself, and they will give you feedback. I went to a lot of those just to get a feel of how these programs were set up and to get more information about each specific program, because sometimes they may mention things that may not be on the website, or you can ask them specific questions regarding yourself and they'll be able to give you an answer as to whether or not like it's good or bad, or like, you know what I mean? I don't know what I mean. They'll be able to give you an answer live. Or if you have a question and somebody else asks the question and they answer it, you already now have an answer to your question. So I definitely recommend info sessions. Those will also be on the program's website. That's why the first thing I told y'all was to check the program's website, because there's a plethora of information. It's like a treasure trove. Usually they'll have a section that says information sessions, and then they'll have like a sign up link, or they'll have dates of when the sessions are, at what time, etc. And you'll be able to get a lot of information that way. Now, another thing that goes under that is PAEA sessions. I believe that's what they're called. Every few months, I want to say. I'm not really sure how often they do this, to be honest with you guys, but I signed up for it. I forgot how I even signed up for it, but I'm gonna try to like leave some information down below the description box in case you're interested. But basically, right, PAEA, and I'm gonna leave what it stands for down here somewhere because I forgot what it stands for, y'all. But PAEA has these information sessions with like a bunch of PA schools. And the way it works, from what I remember, I went to one of them. You go in and it's online. You basically go in, it's online, and they have several PA schools listed. And you can go into like rooms with the PA schools and you can talk to the people running the program. And you can type questions in and they'll answer your questions in live time. Go on the website and figure it out, like you'll be able to see it. But those are really, really helpful because you can go to several schools at once and ask questions about the program and they'll be able to answer your question. Okay, hi guys. So as I'm editing, I realized that I have the email that they recently sent for May, and I wanted to kind of go over that with you guys real quick in this video. These are the perks that you get when you sign up and attend the fair. My favorite is asking the questions because you can get a direct answer from someone who works from the program. And at the bottom of the picture is a website where you can sign up to get emails to be notified for the next virtual session. I highly recommend going to these, and they typically last the entire day, and schools will come online whenever they want to answer your questions. remember that school I told you guys about in Texas, the one that told me because I had a C in Orgo 1 lab, they weren't gonna accept me? When I went to their session at the PAEA conference fair, whatever it's called, somebody asked a similar question, and she told that person the same thing: because you have a C in that one lab, you won't get accepted into the program. So you can get some information as to whether or not you can apply to these schools based off what they're telling you. That's why it's really important to talk to the programs, because you don't want to waste time applying to a school that won't accept you. Sometimes they'll give you some tea that's not on the website. Of course, on the website, they're not going to tell you, oh, if you have a C in this class, we're not going to accept you. Some schools have said things like that. Some schools require a B or higher, but usually some of that information is not going to be on the website. So that's why it's really important to talk to the programs and get the real tea, get the lowdown on what's going on. Because that saves me money, because now I was like, you know what? Because she told me that C was going to set me back, I'm not even gonna apply. Because applying to PA school is expensive. And the year I applied, which was last year, it got more expensive. So you wanna make sure you're saving your money and of course your time, especially if the schools require secondary applications or supplemental essays and extra nonsense that's beyond what's on CASPA. That'll be another video though, because that really shocked me, but I'll get into that another time. But yeah, definitely communicate with your school through information sessions, advising sessions, the PAEA fair. They usually will send you a link and they'll tell you when the fair is happening. And it usually is all day, by the way, from like maybe 8 in the morning to like 7 at night or something like that. And you can go in whenever you want. You can talk to the school, send them little messages, and you can see what other people are asking them. It's almost like a chat room. We can only do like 3 chat rooms at once. And each chat room is a different school. I don't know if they changed the process, but that's how I remember it. But the schools will log on when they have time and you'll be able to talk to them. And I think that's very beneficial. So look into that. Another thing that I recommend is asking for letters of recommendation early. I asked for my letters months before I even applied because I wanted the doctors, my boss, and my professor to have enough time to write the letters for me. Because these people have their own lives. Some of them may have kids, they may be married, they are also working too, they have their own thing going on. So you want to give them over a month to prepare the essay or the recommendation letter for you. If you want, you can give them pointers on what you want them to include, what you want them to emphasize about you, your character, or your experience, so they can include that into the essay. The cycle opens up, late April, early May. I would tell these people about your intentions of applying to PA school if you haven't already in February. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but tell them, hey, I'm thinking of applying to PA school and I would like you to write me a letter of recommendation. Do you mind writing me a letter of recommendation? And they'll tell you yes or no. Now, if they tell you yes, then you tell them, okay, I need the letter by April. You want to get the letter in as soon as possible, especially because if you are applying for that like fee waiver program that they have, you have to have all of your application finished before you can actually submit it. So if you're done, but you're waiting on the letters of recommendation, you can't submit that application because the letters are not there and you can't use the fee waiver. And the fee waiver has like a 2-week period or like a 10-day period or whatever that you can use it once you get it. So you don't want to apply for the fee waiver. Your application is not ready because you didn't get a recommendation letter, and then now you're running out of time to submit the application because you're not fully ready to submit it. I hope that makes sense. I will make another video on that if you guys are interested in learning about the fee waiver program, but it's all on CASPA's website. But that's why you want to ask for your letters early. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but letting them know in February that you want the letter to be written is important to give them enough time to write you a letter. It may take them weeks to actually sit down and write you a letter. So you don't want to waste time with all of that. Get all of the letters in early so you don't have to worry about that throughout your application. Next thing you want to do is strategize about your personal statement, right? You want to make sure that you are letting the people reading your personal statement know about you before you even get to the interview, right? Now, one thing you do want to be careful of when it gets to interview season, and I want to make another video about interviews, but one thing you really want to know is that depending on the school, the same person who's reading through your application may not be the same person who's reading your personal statement and who's even doing the interview. Don't assume that they know these things about you from your application and you're not going to include them in your personal statement, right? Don't say, oh, I've already talked about me working at a homeless shelter and volunteering there and me being a nurse for 10 years. I'm not going to mention that in my personal statement because I already talked about that. That's a mistake. Every school is different and they have different setups. So you don't want to say that you're not going to mention something because it's already been mentioned, because somebody else may be reading the personal statement. They may not have any idea of what you've done in the past on your application. So keep that in mind. Every school is different with how they review applications. But you really want to start strategizing about that before you even apply to PA school. Figure out what your theme is going to be. What are you trying to talk about? What are your strengths that you want to portray? And if there's any weaknesses you want to address, maybe you want to address that in the personal statement. How are you going to address it effectively to make it look like you've changed and you've gotten better and you've improved? So that concludes part 1. If you guys want me to make a part 2 of what to do when it comes to applying to PA school, how to best prepare yourself, please let me know in the comments down below. Give this video a big thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye.